Man, what a great story. You know, some years ago, I had just read John Maxwell's book, The 21 Laws of Leadership. And the 21st law is the law of legacy, and he's kind of dealing with this issue a little bit. And so I bought the book, and I took it to a pastor friend of mine. I had a pretty candid, open relationship with him, so I bought Steve a copy of the book, went to lunch with him, and I said, Steve, man, I want to ask you a question. You're the chaplain to the fire department and the police department. You're the chaplain to the local high school football team. When the day comes when you are ready to step aside and retire from ministry, what are you doing to establish your legacy? What does that look like for you? And what was kind of just an innocent question, at least from my perspective, I just wanted to know what he was thinking. I'll never forget, that moment was a lightning rod for me. He spent the next hour and a half just kind of opening up his tension about the reality of succession planning. It broke my heart. I mean, here's a guy that has given himself, when he retires, he will retire at his 50th year in ministry. There's a guy at the time who had given over 15 years to one church and had taken it from the verge of bankruptcy to an incredible ministry in the city where he's at. And here is this guy who is an incredible leader, had been so gracious to me and mentoring me and just taking me under his wing. And when the topic of his retirement came up, man, it was a source of pain for him. I remember walking away from that moment thinking, you know what? I don't know how or when or whatever. I didn't know any details, but I walked away thinking, man, I want to be a blessing to Steve as he navigates that season in his life. But not just him. It's like this incredible weight landed on my shoulders, and it's like, man, I want to be a blessing to an older generation, just to help all of the Steves out there that are dealing with this. And so I walked away from that moment, and within the next few months, a friend of mine called me up and said, hey, Will, I'm getting ready to take over the private bank at a local bank in the Dallas area. And I'd like for you to help come on and build that with us. And so, talked about that. One of the specific roles that I had was I was going to be the bank's liaison to the nonprofit community. And my job was to help figure out how to give away a couple $1 million a year. With my conversation with my pastor friend fresh on my heart, with this opportunity to help the bank figure out how to steward and give away a couple $1 million a year, I started interviewing the nonprofit community. And I think in the first 6 months, I did almost 200 site reviews. Worked on my certification with the Center for Nonprofit Management in Dallas. In succession planning became this lens that I would use to kind of understand what was going on. And I was looking for ways and principles that helped in the nonprofit world, thinking I would find some great stuff. What I found was the same angst that existed with Stephen was the same angst and frustration that really captured a lot of leaders in the nonprofit community. And I was just in this really interesting place in my career. It's like God gave me this perch to sit on, to literally watch dozens and dozens of succession plans playing out in the nonprofit community all at once. And I saw them talk to leaders about their plans as they were formulating their thinking. I saw organizations that were in implementation mode. I'd seen organizations that had done it well. I'd seen organizations that had absolutely dropped the ball and it destroyed their organizations. And so within 9 months to a year of my conversation with Steve, it's like I had gotten a master's degree from Harvard or Yale on the topic of succession planning. And it was at that point I thought, I'm seeing a lot of stuff happen. I want to go see what it's like and how pastors, not in the nonprofit community, but I'm wondering how pastors are dealing with this issue on a broader scale. And so just honestly, the sovereignty of God and His kindness to me in putting me in a position in my banking career to see succession planning play out in so many different contexts. That's really how it happened. But the day it landed on my soul was lunch with Stephen.